Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the City of Deltona City Commission Workshop for Wednesday, June 15th, 2022 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Bradford? Here. Commissioner King? Here. Commissioner McCool? Here. Commissioner Ramos?
Present.
Commissioner Sosa? Here. Vice Mayor Villa-Vasquez? Present. Mayor Hertzberg?
Here. May we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Commissioner King, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have several items on the agenda. The first, Mr. Peters, we are going to begin with Public Works. Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's going to be tab 16 in your first budget book. And Vice Mayor, what tab on your second? Tab 14 on your line item book.
All right, on the Public Works side, I am referring back to the, let me see here. The particular sheet that's up on the screen now. You will note that there is a slight increase in personnel. There's a corresponding decrease in operating, and generally it is a flatline budget as compared to last year. So unless you have any other questions, our emphasis here is on ADA compliance with our sidewalks, upgrading in sign inventory and infrastructure repairs. We going to put an emphasis on striping. This is a pet peeve of mine that our striping needs to be kept up to date. If you drive through parts of the city at night, it's hard to see the lane striping, and continue to maintain our sidewalk program. So if you have any questions, we've got Phyllis Wallace here to help in feedbacking if you have any specific questions.
Commissioners, questions for staff on Public Works? Once again, tab 14 on your line item book and tab 16 on the book with the budget overview chart that we have on the big screen. No questions, commissioners? Still reading? Do you want to take a 10-minute break?
No, it's
just that this is the first we're looking at line items.
Then I think we should take a 10-minute recess so everybody can read their line items. Do you want to do that, commissioners, or do we want to move on?
Shouldn't take 10 minutes. I'm just glancing through. Anybody else have any questions they can?
Because if we're going to go, from my suggestion, Mr. Peters, if we're going to go line item for 1, 2, 3, 4 for these 5, then on the 27th, we don't have to do line items on these 5.
The
Right.
whole intention of these 3 days was to do a general overview of each of the departments and to have an appreciation of what the 4 different millage rates mean over the next 5
Right,
years.
I understand that, but the commission doesn't, especially certain commissioners, don't want to do that, and that was a big discussion last night. So if we're going to go line item tonight, then we are going to remove the line item from the 27th.
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
At least I was under the understanding that we were going to receive this today, and it gives us till the 27th so we can go line item and have any questions. I didn't think we were going to go item for item
And
today.
also, I
I'm
was going
fine
to
either
suggest
way,
that
but the commission is going to have to make a decision now. If we're going to go line item, I'm fine with that. And that's, or if we're going to do line item on the 27th, but we're not going to do line item today and on the 27th on these 5 that we have left. Because that's a redundancy, and it's going to keep staff here forever too on the 27th. So, Commissioner King, so not tonight, what, sir? No line item tonight. Commissioner McCool? Line item tonight or not line item tonight? Commissioner Ramos? Vice Mayor? You want to go line by line tonight, or do you want to do it on the 27th? Commissioner Bradford, you want to do it tonight?
Well, I don't mind doing it on the 27th, but are we going to get through all these departments in one night on the 27th? That's my concern. You
I don't know, Mr.
there's-
Peters.
There's no possible way, and we can't set a trim notice until we go through this. So I don't see us going through line item on
Well-
everything in one night.
Madam Mayor, quite honestly, if you all want to go line by line to the budget, my recommendation is going to be on the 27th, that we start the meeting around noon, so that we have adequate time, because this is a significant budget, and to go line by line is going to take time. Now, if the commission wants to be prepared by the 27th, and preferably come in and see staff about specific concerns between now and the 27th, then we can probably handle it in a workshop format, probably 4 or 5 hours. But if it's going to be line by line, my recommendation is that we start at noon on the 27th, so that we have time to go through the entire budget, and
I'm
we'll
good
have
with that.
staff here.
It's whatever the commission wants to do. I'm fine with starting at noon. It helps staff. They don't have to sit here till 9 o'clock at night. So, I mean, I'm good with doing it noon.
I think we need to let our city manager and assistant city manager do their job to manage our staff. You know, we don't have to, we're going back again to where we are scrutinizing every little line in the budget, and I don't think that's what we're here to do.
But I think that's what some people on the dais would like to do, Commissioner
Let them
King.
do their job.
Well,
It's my understanding, is it not, that one of the commission's number one responsibilities is this budget? That's our responsibility. That is our number one. I was taught that from day one. Your number one responsibility is this budget. And when something comes up the next year, you know what they're going to say? Did you read your budget? Well, we were just given a blank check. We didn't know what we were supposed to do. So our job is to do the budget, and then he's to manage it with the people on that. I've always been, that's how I was taught from day one. This budget is our responsibility. We're not managing him by doing this.
I'm not
Madam Mayor, and
disagreeing with that,
and
but to
I'm
go
not
through
either.
every single line item on the budget is just nonsense. It's foolishness. You have
Madam
to
Mayor,
do that.
may I suggest the fact that this is our number one responsibility. However, with that being said, we also are tasked with doing work when we're not sitting here with staff on the clock, is to be utilized. My suggestion is to go through our budget as was planned this evening, take the budget book home with us like we do, and go line through line. This is indeed, is this budget book online right now? The budget book, I'm getting two different answers.
is it online or not online?
Yes,
Staff says
it's
yes.
online now. It
Could
had to
you
be-
clear it up for the audience, please, where this can be found online? This is online anyways. My point is, this is available for any resident that would like to take a look at it, get with their commissioner, and then bring these concerns back per line. And I don't mean line by line, but if there is a line item that someone has an issue with, at that time, taking it up with staff, because efficiency there, again, is costing the taxpayers money. This is our job, but I think that's the most efficient way to do this.
And Madam Mayor, if I may add to that, yes, you're correct, Commissioner Bradford, it is a responsibility, but again, I thought that we were going to finish the overview that we're doing. We're given a line-by-line item that we, as commissioners, can go through it. If we have any questions or concern, from here to the 27th, we can meet with the city manager, and then on the 27th, be ready to have conversations about any of the subject areas. Because if we're going to go line by line,
with that.
if we're going to go line by line item tonight, just on these 3 areas, we might as well start,
So-
take an hour break so that we can go through this.
Okay, so then, Mayor, I think you asked a question, if we're okay with meeting Monday earlier, and then come back with whatever we have highlighted and whatever questions we have written on the item book that was given to us. So,
In the past, what we have done with the line item book is gone through this at our leisure and put little tabs in there and mark those little tabs. And when we go through that department, I have a question on page 3, item X. What is that? Or see the manager or the department head through the manager and ask those questions prior. That's what we have always done with the little arrow tabs. Again, the reason we're having this conversation is because we need to clarify, because on the 27th, we have got to have a guideline as to what we are going to do.
And Madam Mayor, I don't have a problem with that. You know, the problem I had was looking at this, not knowing, as I said, what we're doing, and being told, yes, you need to determine what we're going to set this at, preliminary, and being told there's not another meeting set up, and not having it to go through and do those tabs. So before, I think we had this book well enough in advance to go through, write our notes, and do just that. The problem is we didn't get it. We just got this 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes ago. And so I have no problem of taking the 2 weeks to do it and do it that way. The only reason I was seeing if we were going to do it that way tonight was because of that eliminates these tabs off of that Monday night, which shortens that Monday night. But I have no problem taking more time, and I don't got to stress about going through it tonight. But for clarification, this needs to be handed out where we get adequate time to go through it prior to us wanting to be told to set a trim notice.
So,
Commissioner Bradford, I was not here last night due to COVID protocol, but my intention all along was to have the line-by-line review. My intention with the first workshop in July to give you all adequate time to review the line-by-line budget after we went through the review that we're doing this week. The 27th just tightens the time frame a little bit, but we're fine with the 27th, and hopefully, as you all review it and you have questions, you will let me know prior to the meeting so that I'm certain, A, that I can answer it right away, or B, I am certain that I have the people that have the answer available and prepared to respond. Certain items may have to be showing you estimates from certain people as to what it's going to cost to do something. So the more time we have to be prepared to answer the question, the quicker the meeting on the 27th will move. So I encourage each of you all, as you review the line by line, as the mayor said, put a sticky note in there and give us a call, come in and meet with me. I will clear my schedule. And let me know what your concerns are so that we're prepared to answer them on the 27th.
okay, are we good then to do, are you comfortable, Commissioner Bradford? Because I want you to be okay with that, seriously. Like, I know you had a big concern, we got the book, and if we're good to go line by line on the 27th instead of tonight, then we'll move on with these tabs and then do line by line on the 27th. And if the commission has that will, at the end of this meeting, we're going to talk about timing and what time that meeting should start on the 27th. So while we're here, think about that and see what your timing can be. If you'd like to start earlier, that's fine. We'll figure that out at the end. But now we have people waiting for our decision. So are we good then to continue with, as we did yesterday, asking questions for an overview? You good, Commissioner Bradford?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Public Works, any questions on Public Works of the overview? None? Transportation Fund, which is tab 17, and if you want to know the other tab, it is 22 on the other book. So, Mr. Peters, Transportation. I think Commissioner Sosa had some questions on that yesterday, right, sir? On transportation, did you?
Yeah, I had questions about
Okay.
the $10 million that
Right.
was supposed to have gone to the Rhode Island extension project that yesterday I was told it went to $2.5 million went to Parks and Recs, $1.5 million went somewhere else, $3 million went to Rhode Island. My question is when this was approved last year, that $10 million was dedicated to Rhode Island, correct?
There were $10 million set aside for North Normandy and Rhode Island. It's not just Rhode Island, it's also the portion of North Normandy that is currently 2 lanes. It includes the widening of that to at least 3 lanes.
Okay.
So those are the components. That is to open up the 300 to 400 acres to the south of the movie theater for development that will enhance our tax base. And we're already seeing the first of those discussions because we have a 1 million square foot spec warehouse going out of the ground now. So it is moving forward. I think Ms. Lysing is prepared to answer any questions you have as to how that was funded. I think there was some confusion last night about that. So, Mary, if you could talk about how that was funded.
I think, Commissioner Sosa, your question was how much money from the general fund was transferred to the Rhode Island project. There was $3 million transferred from general fund to pay for the Rhode Island project. The project was $10 million. The remainder was paid for from the transportation fund balance.
So we had $7 million come out of transportation?
Correct.
And $3
Transportation
million
fund from general fund.
So my question was, there was $10 million that was supposed to come out of undesignated reserves, is what we were told last year. So where's the other $7 million? Where was that applied when it came out of undesignated reserves and we're put in the general fund?
No, this is money that was transferred from the general fund, and $3 million went to transportation. 1.1 million went to fund projects in the municipal complex fund. 2.5 million went to fund the parks projects. And 3 million went to the replacement equipment fund. And that's to replace, we fund that every year from the general fund to keep our equipment running, as vehicles expire or any other equipment that's used.
Okay, see, that's not how it was explained when we voted on this last year for the budget. It was, Mr.
Commissioner
Peters, you
Sosa,
said you
let
wanted
me-
to take $10 million out of undesignated reserves and put it towards the Rhode Island project.
Yes, sir, and I will plead guilty. Early in the budget process, I was talking about taking $10 million from the undesignated reserves, and then if we went through the budget process and the finance department was taking a look at it, we came back in the final budget process and amended that to be in $3 million from undesignated reserve and $7 million from transportation after we took a look at the budget. But at the beginning of the budget process, when I was talking about it, I was talking about $10 million coming from undesignated reserves. But as we looked at it, it was a better way to approach it. I also told you all last year, and it's coming to fruition, that our intention was that whatever impact fees that we get from the new projects along the road, that money would go back to the original fund or directly to the road construction, and we just not use it. We've already have done an impact fee credit with regard to the right part of the right-of-way on Rhode Island as part of the apartment project. So as the work continues, and we also have heard from the county that they may be willing to include their impact fees toward this road project. And if their impact fees can come back to us, that's even more money because they charge a higher impact fee than we do. So with county and city impact fee, we may be able to do the entire project off of impact fee credit and never use the funds that we set aside for it.
Okay,
That
so
would be the ideal situation.
out of that $3 million, we haven't spent any of it.
Not that I'm aware of. I think we did an impact fee credit for the right-of-way acquisition for the portion of Rhode Island that's needed for the apartment project. Okay?
Does that clarify, Commissioner Sosa? So Commissioner Bradford and then Vice Mayor.
Okay, so can we go back to that? Now you got me really confused. The commission voted to take 10 million out of the undesignated fund.
I don't believe that's correct. I think by the time we got to the end of the budget, we had modified that to what Ms. Lyson just gave you, which was the 3 and the 7. Early in the budget process, when I first brought up the idea of doing Rhode Island, I made the comment that we had money in undesignated reserves that could pay for it. But as we went through the budget process, we made a determination that the transportation fund and a combination transportation fund and undesignated was a better approach to paying for the 10 million.
And we as you and staff.
Pardon?
When you say we, that's you and staff. That was you
And the commission. The commission approved the final budget that had it that way.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Peters, on the accomplishments of the transportation, it says continue program throughout the city, including work within the CRA. Does that mean that funds from the transportation are being used also in the CRA area?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you?
That was a grant project, so a lot of the money came from a grant, and the balance of it came from the transportation fund, is my understanding.
Can you just give me an idea of what that project was?
It's very difficult to say because I think there were a total, and Steve Danskin, if you can help me here, I think there was something like 33 of the crosswalk projects.
No.
So there were 2 of them in the CRA, and the balance of them were elsewhere in the city. So it's hard to say how much was actually in the CRA, total dollar-wise.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, I was just curious, is there plans to continue widening Elk Camp?
There is a plan to go from Fort Smith toward Providence in the next phase, so that we would essentially have the widened shoulders through that entire area, and that is a program project with TPO.
Okay, are we looking to do that next year, or?
The TPO schedule keeps changing.
It does, but right now we're at the 90% plans on that section and going through the DOT approval process. So we're in the pipeline.
Now, do you have, once it gets to Providence, do you plan on running it further down to like Montecito or all the way to Howland?
The original plan was to take it from the end of this project down to Howland ultimately, but staff has met and we've been having discussions with our TPO partners. We will likely not pursue that project because we have a situation where along Elkham we have the various lakes with 100-year floodplains and wetland issues, and we're concerned that the environmental issues will be hard to overcome. So rather than chase a project that doesn't have viability, we're going to look to see if there's some alternative projects around the city that we could pursue.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Peters, 2 questions here. The first question being the Providence Trail project. What do we have budgeted, like we are still on track to budget for that? Yes, to pursue. What are those funds, the matching funds that we'll use to pursue? 1.6.
The Providence Trail is a very difficult project. Originally, the trail was going to be on the east side of Providence.
Yep.
When the Public Works Department took over the project, we immediately had concerns with the slopes of 3 driveways and how we were going to get by there. So we asked the engineer to go back and revisit it. We determined very quickly it was better to move the trail over to the west side of the road. We have been dealing with mailboxes and what the county refers to as the clear zone between the edge of pavement and the trail for safety reasons. We have come to basically a memorandum of understanding where the city is assisting the Postal Service and the county with some property to put in gang mailboxes that a lot of neighborhoods have, even in Deltona. That way people can safely access their mailboxes without having to get out in a busy travel road. And so we are going to move forward based on that memorandum of understanding with regard to the mailboxes. It includes language about city providing property, the county doing the concrete, and the Postal Service providing the mailboxes. So that project is moving forward, and we hopefully will be bringing it back to you all for final agreement on the final agreement.
Okay, any lakeshore project? Any anticipated overruns for this year on that project?
Lakeshore?
Yes, sir.
I am getting ready to send you all an email. We are having a very serious issue out at Lakeshore. As we dug down for what would be the lift station wet well, it's extremely deep. We ran into an artesian well, which really is not a surprise given the proximity to Green Springs. So we are mobilizing a company that specializes in dewatering that type of facility. Once we dewater it, we'll be able to assess how we can cap the artesian well so this project can move forward. So unfortunately, we are probably in a 6 to 8 week delay to going through that problem, so which means that people will have to continue to use the detour for a longer period of time. But I will be providing more information in the next couple of days in an email to all of you all.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Peters, I know that we spoke about a few times about the Enterprise and Deltona corners, right, into Deltona Boulevard. And I know that you mentioned that you spoke to the county. However, the county's having a little bit of problem trying to get somebody to just work on that little piece. Is there any way you can fit that little piece that they say they're having a problem trying to get somebody to fix into this budget? Because while we wait for them, it's getting bigger and bigger, so.
Yep. As I told you all before, when we had the CRA discussion, the county indicated that they're trying to mobilize a paving contractor. They're having issue given the small size of this project, relatively speaking. I'm going to be talking to Phyllis Wallace because we're getting ready to start some paving work ourselves, and it may be that we can mobilize somebody sooner. And if so, we will once again ask the county to allow us to pave it, and they reimburse us.
Right, so that would be on the road surfacing and stripping, or that would be under the CRA?
That would actually be part of road paving, but the county would pay for it.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions on transportation? Then we'll move on. The next tab, tab 18, is stormwater. And Vice Mayor, I'm going to hand the gavel over to you. I just want to go see Mary for a minute, okay? Just have a question answered. So stormwater.
Okay, so we're up to stormwater funds, and that's on page 17 of the manual that we got today. So, Mr. Peters?
Yes, ma'am. The stormwater fund is actually somewhat less the coming year. We are recommending that we stay at the current $128 a year rate. In fact, Monday night, we will be bringing a resolution to affirm that number for next year because we do have certain reporting requirements. So this budget is based on the $128 a year per ERU that we currently have. The most significant part of this is the capital element is relatively flat. We do have a chart that we will share when we go through the line item that shows that we still have significant amounts of capital projects that need to be done. In talking to our lobbyists, we believe that we have a more than reasonable chance to get money from the legislature next year to pay for two of the more significant projects, and that being the Lake Windsor area and the Lake Gleason area. We tried to get funding this last year and were not successful. But according to Ms. McKeon, we have reason to believe that we will be more successful this coming year.
Okay. Any questions from the dais? Oh, sorry, I couldn't see it from here. Commissioner McCool?
Mr. Peters, so what was it that we were after this year, right, from legislation, and we did not get that. So you have our lobbyist has a better idea that we'll be more successful next year, this upcoming year, in getting this. Is that what you just said?
Well, without going into a whole lot of details, with the new boundaries for the districts, representation, and we also will be not just working with the representative, but also on the Senate side. We have reason to believe, depending on the election, but we have reason to believe that we will be more successful next year.
Okay.
No other questions? Okay, so we're going to move on to Deltona Water and Sewer. And that will be on page 23 of the line item.
All right, on Deltona Water, all right, we have, from a personnel standpoint, a little bit higher. We have significant effort going in this year with regard to the meter replacement. When we get to the line item budget on the 27th, we have a rather nice problem in the water and sewer. It goes back to one of my promises to you all when I was director of Public Works and Utilities, that we were looking at cost-saving initiatives that will pay back in the form of being able to reduce our utility rates. And on the 27th, I'll just go ahead and say it now. What we plan to do is bring the consultant to help us with the last rate study back in to evaluate our current financial situation, because it is a distinct possibility that we could recommend a rate reduction over time. Key elements to that is we are working with Volusia County on transferring our sewer flow from the Fisher wastewater plant to DeBerry. The county has elected to use the federal COVID relief money toward expanding the wastewater plant in DeBerry, so there would be no local government cost in doing so. So the key cost for us would be transmitting the flow to DeBerry. We did get $500,000 from the legislature for that project. We have been told that because it is a multi-jurisdictional project, i.e. the city of Deltona, Volusia County, and DeBerry has a septic to sewer project in the same area along Dirksen. So it will be three parties involved, which DEP usually will fund at about 50%. So that pipeline, we believe, will ultimately be funded by the state of Florida to the tune of about 50%. This is in lieu of having to upgrade the Fisher plant to meet the new Blue Springs requirement for nutrients, and the estimate for that has always been between $12 and $18 million. So obviously, if we don't have to spend that level of money on Fisher, and we get a favorable wholesale rate from the county, which we believe we will, we should be able to see a significant decrease in our sewer rates to our customers from the savings. So, long term, and then in addition to that, with the new meters and the efficiencies from that, i.e. the number of meter readers, the number of customer service representatives, we should be able to see further savings. So, we're starting to see the fruits of our labor in terms of being able to make the water and sewer fund more efficient and the resulting benefit to our ratepayers in terms of their water and sewer rates. So we are going to be recommending that we bring the consultant back in and make that evaluation.
Okay, I have Commissioner McCool, then Commissioner Sosa.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The project, the money that we're getting to do the meter replacement, correct? The meters will be covering in and out of city, correct? If it's Deltona Water, it will be one of the new meters, correct?
Say that one more time.
So we have residents that are not a resident of the city, well, they're
Such as
not a
Enterprise.
resident, right? So out of city, out of limits. The meters will also cover them as long as they are a resident, or as long as they are a Deltona Water customer, they will be receiving the new meters, correct?
All Deltona Water customers will be receiving new meters.
Okay. Will these meters, this is going to be covering the COVID money, and when we say meters, it will cover all of the labor. Is there a labor break? Are we going to have any human capital break on that also?
Ma'am, you all have already approved, I believe it's
Yes.
$9.8 million for the meters.
Yep.
The negative news on that, if we had intended, we had been led to believe that they would start coming in September.
Mm-hmm.
We're now being told that it will be in January.
Okay.
So we are getting ready to put out an RFQ for a firm to come in and ensure that the Neptune 360 works with our units, so that will be seamless, and they will also be responsible for the installation. And right now, we intend to pay for that out of the federal monies because we got $13.9 million. We don't have a firm number, but we believe that the installation and all the other work involved will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million. So that will be covered by the federal dollars. And then we will go from there.
Okay, so the overall, the cumulative cost savings here that we're talking about when we're talking about being able to give the residents a break, have we entertained that thought? And listen, I understand this supremely, that the fact is, we have people that are Deltona Water customers, okay, that live out of city limits, still paying the 25% surcharge, and it's unbearable right now. Will the city make a commitment to looking seriously at being able to, I know you're smiling at me, but this is my gig, so will the city be able to make a commitment to look at that when they do the rate study to lower that by, if 5% would be a big savings for these people. I understand we have the administrative cost, but I understand also what the law says. We have a right to charge 25%, but we're having hard times right now. So I'm just asking in all seriousness if they will look at that also, then the dollar amount that would equate to. We've been doing this now for as long as I've been involved with water issues. Honest opinion, sir, I'm just asking.
Let me just, this is not a 100% commitment that I'm getting ready to say. This is part of ongoing discussions. Ongoing discussions with the county includes wholesaling the flow from Fisher to DeBerry. It potentially includes either wholesaling water or even serving portions of Del North. It includes removing the 25% surcharge in the unincorporated areas that the city serves. So those are part of ongoing negotiations. I cannot make a guarantee, but as it looks right now, that will be part of the overall agreement that we will be making with Volusia County, because quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, the potential cost savings on the sewer side to the city will far outweigh the revenue that we would lose on the 25% surcharge in the enterprise area. So financially, it would be a good deal.
So in saying that, sir, I understand what you're talking about. I understand how fluid negotiations are. I understand how fluid relationship and work is with the county. And so in talking about this, and when we're talking about budget and the taxpayers paying this money in, I just want to say how important that is, and we've really been harping on that. I understand they have to pay for a certain cost, but I also understand that water is something that touches everybody, and I understand that they don't live in the city, but for our residents living outside the city, you know, I would ask for their thoughts and for any you know, thing that they can do to encourage the county, right, and us to look at that. 25% is substantial, especially at our tiering costs. So water people, hear this and keep up with a good fight. Thank you.
Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, quick question. I was talking to a resident of Lake Helen, and they were telling me they switched to a new digital meter, and they're having issues with it. Do you know if they are using the same meters that we will be getting? Because I know they've had issues with some of theirs where they've just had to bill residents a flat rate, and because they can't get the correct billing on them.
Where's this at?
You know, Lake Helen. I think they just installed them not too long ago, and they're having issues. Is there any way we can look into that and see if it's the same?
Well, I know for a fact that we got areas like Stone Island where the meter went down. It is extremely difficult right now to get meters. And so there are some instances with different utilities, we're not there yet, where they basically have to estimate how much water usage there is, and they just charge a flat rate in spite of not being able to read the meters because of the lack of a meter. I'm hoping we don't get to that situation, but it is getting difficult for certain size meters, especially, you know, for instance, Stone Island, I'm not sure the exact size, but if it's a 4 or 6 inch meter, they're extremely difficult to get right now. And so I know Volusia County and some other utilities, I'm not sure about Lake Helen, where they have new subdivisions, they can't get new meters, so they're just charging a flat rate per month until they get meters.
Well, I think they had switched over to the new digital meters.
Excuse me if I may, Mr. City Manager. In a previous life, I was the contracted city engineer for the city of Lake Helen when I was with another firm. They did, previously they had done flat rate billing throughout the city. So nobody had a meter read. They did start installing meters and actually had the drive-by meters for a while, which they loved. I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe they're using Badger meters where we use Neptune. So different companies, different issues.
Okay, different. That was my concern. If it's the same brand, if we're going to, swap out 36,000 meters, how many are actually going to work?
Right.
So you think they're using Badger and we're using Neptune?
I believe that's correct, but
Okay.
I could be mistaken on that, but
And Commissioner Socha, that's part of the reason we're doing the RFQ. When I said at the very beginning of that, which is one of their jobs is to make sure there is not a problem with connectivity between Neptune 360 and Munis, so that by the time we implement this, it will be a seamless process. I know a couple of the firms that will be putting in, they have done large projects recently, and they were able to work with units and make it work correctly. So, that is our goal by hiring these people, to make sure that we have a seamless transition through the process.
Okay. One other question. On capital outlay, you're going from 3.3 million to 44 million. I looked at what's in here, and I only came up with about 11 million worth of projects. Where's the other 33 million going?
Sir, if you allow me to discuss that when we go to the line-by-line budget on the 27th, I would appreciate it, because I'm not prepared to answer that right now.
Okay.
But I will answer it on the 27th.
Okay. And
Mr. Peters, I think the difference is rollover from prior year projects.
Pardon me?
There's rollover from the prior year for unfinished projects.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
33 million more. Wow. Okay. And debt service, what is it that we are paying for on that? What projects are we funding through there that, I guess, the debt service went from 3.2 to 7.5?
Julia, of all the people in the room, I know you're the one that can answer that. When she handled finances for Deltona Water.
It was the refunding of the bonds that the utility had. We had the 2014 series and the 2013 series. And in 2021, that was when it was actually refunded, so we didn't have a full payment. So the following years, we will have a full payment.
Do you by any chance know what that payment was for fiscal year 2019, 2020? For the debt service before we refinanced?
I will have to look it up. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay,
I want to say it might be close to $5 million
5.
for just the bonds.
Right.
This amount also includes the SRF loans.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Mr. Peters, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Peters, you made a comment about the possibility of having a decrease in the sewer rates. Is that something for this year or for next year?
It would likely be, if we do it, it would probably be a mid-year adjustment for next year.
For next year.
Because we need to bring in, I think his name's Brian, who did the previous rate study. I have a great deal of confidence in his work. But the initial budget, it looks like that we will be building a fund balance over the next 5 years. So I think it's time to take a look at that, especially in light of the savings that will be coming forward. So, it may be that we will just defer the 5% increase in program for next year, but we will be bringing him on board to do that analysis for us.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions on Deltona Water? And if not, we will move on to the next tab, which will be Planning Services. And close that up. Tab 20. Mr. Peters, any comments on that? Any questions? Commissioner McCool.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ron, I wanted to find out, because I know it's part of departmental responsibilities, do we have plans for personnel for grant writer and review?
Not part of planning and development services, no, ma'am.
Okay, could you repeat that, Ron?
Not part of planning and development services, no, ma'am.
Okay, so maybe, I don't know, I'm just saying that it's part of the I'm just bringing up that it says it's part of department responsibility, so I just want to find out who that would be. Grant writing and management, who would that be?
Yeah, we have done grant management activities in the past with ECHO grants and whatnot. You know, here recently, some of those responsibilities have gone over to Public Works and Economic Development as well.
Okay, Mr. Peters, can I ask you a question then? Do we have any plans for that staffing, as here we have a lot of, we're in a sensitive environmental area, right? And there's still funds left out there. Also with the, I don't know, wanting to add to our legislative power, as it might be. Do we have any plans for grant writing and management for our city?
The city is looking at how we can aggressively go after Volusia Forever funds and Volusia Echo funds. Some of it is for the purpose of purchase with the Forever Fund would be for purchase of sensitive lands. We have become aware of an opportunity that I'm just not quite ready to announce yet of a piece of property that has a vital historical significance. And so we'll be looking at going for Volusia Forever money to purchase the property, and Echo Fund to develop the property into a suitable facility for the information that is important with that property. But we're about a month or two away from being able to make that announcement. So yes, we are looking at those opportunities. Jerry Mays has been very good at seeking out those types of funds, and he will continue to do so. With regard to buying environmentally sensitive lands, we really haven't gone through a process of determining what properties that should entail. We have made some arrangements with regard to a key piece of property to the north of Elk Camp that Jerry was working on, Mr. Fowler's been assisting with. The main thing we're working on now is access to the property. It will be a key piece of property in terms of city-owned environmental property. But right now, there's no intention. Long answer to a short and simple answer, which is we right now are not planning to have grant writers and things of that nature, partly because I'm not sure that we're really prepared with a list of properties that we would want to pursue.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, any other questions for planning and development services? None? Okay, that will wrap up these. If you don't mind, there were several questions that were asked regarding the first one. The last one, Commissioner Sosa, with the capital outlay for Deltona Water. In this budget, it's $20 million that are allocated on page 300. So that would explain the meters, the SCADA system, Eastern Wastewater Treatment Plant expansion, Wellington Lombardi, and so on and so forth, the rehab sewer collection systems. That takes care of the 20 million of the capital outlay. On the first
But I thought the
column,
meters were purchased last year.
Actually, the money was allocated last year, and I believe we awarded it earlier this year. But that money was carried over from last year toward the purchase.
Right, but we're looking at, okay.
because that's the,
And that was 9.8 million.
because it comes under the 21-22 revised budget for the 44 million of capital outlay, and that is, like I said, on this line, because for the 22-23, you're 16 million. So the rest of the allocation, we need the other 20 million. The other thing that I asked Mary about, and I have to get to the correct page again, on last year's budget book were the transfer in, transfer out, and the questions about the 10 million coming from undesignated reserves. So 3 million, as she's reiterated, was transferred in from the general fund to transportation, and the other 7 million is in the transportation fund. And when you look at the unassigned reserves on page 101 of your budget book, it's the third line from the bottom. When you look at that in 2019 and 2020, we had 24,431,000. For the 2021 was budgeted 24,779,000. The revised was 27,491,000. And then you're looking at 20,432,000. So right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, what we talked about is when you looked at the transfers, which were the 1.5 million for parks, the 3 million for transportation, and the other items were for, was stormwater, no, municipal complex was another one, and the fourth one, I'm sorry, I have all these tabs open and I don't have little stickies here. Right now, when you look at that, because of the 1.5 million that we transferred in from parks, a lot of that was not spent yet. The 3 million for Rhode Island has not been spent yet. And I'm not sure what has been spent on the municipal complex. I apologize, I have, like I said, all these tabs open. So all of the things that were budgeted are in the budget book, in the budget that we passed. And you can look through all the different lines and see from last year what we budgeted. And then if you compare it to what we have done now and not done, you will still see a significant reserve because a lot of those projects have not been completed for various reasons. So I think on the 27th or beforehand, if we have questions on that, I mean, sit down with Mr. Peters or Stacy and Mary and clarify where we are, because and what was approved and what wasn't. What was approved is all in this budget, and where it was transferred from and put to, what have we spent and what have we not spent so far, because you'll see that we are going to have a significant number of dollars that are not spent yet that will have to be carried over to next year, especially for the things like Rhode Island and so forth. So, Commissioner Bradford?
So I'm going to make an assumption before that meeting on the 27th, we're going to actually have something a little bit different than what we received with this line comparison, comparing, side by side from our 21, 22 to the new budget coming up. And those items that you're speaking of that would be carried over and haven't been done and put on hold.
Up to this point, I think we know which ones, staff, you should know which ones have not been completed and which ones we're still waiting for the expenses.
If I can address that, I'm sorry I wasn't here last night and I could have addressed it. There was reference to a meeting in January between myself and the former Parks and Rec Director and Mr. Manning. This was after a thorough review of our facilities. We had money in the budget, for instance, for the Arts and Craft Building, for repairing the foundation, but it became very evident to me with my background that this was a building that was beyond repair. So the decision was made not to pursue that project. If you recall, about that time, we were just finishing up the re-roofing of the Little Red Schoolhouse. They were kind of working their way down the street, literally. And then we had a discussion about all the other facilities that were in a state of disrepair, such as the Campbell Park building. There were concerns about the community building with regard to mold. I am highly allergic to mold, and every time I would walk in the building, I would immediately have an asthma attack. So they were telling me that the building was clean. I asked if they get a company in to reevaluate it, and we found mold, I believe, in 5 different locations in that building. And then also, I brought up the fact that I wanted to bring in a company such as ABM to evaluate all of our buildings. Part of that Boynton Beach contract that ABM has an energy saving component. I pointed out the fact that the ball field lights that we were going to convert to, I believe, the LED, that part of the evaluation that ABM will do is if there are enough energy savings by converting to a different type of light, they can actually do the work, use the energy savings to pay themselves back to where we don't use capital funds for that purpose. So I saw an opportunity to save money there. And then the Dwight Hawkins field renovation was a project that I had some concerns about, but in light of the amount of other work that we knew was going to be needed, I elected to put that one on hold. In addition, I understand the issue of DuPont Lake came up, the DuPont ball fields. I will remind you all that last fall, the gentlemen that are part of the adult softball program out there came in and were complaining about the overall drainage in that park, specifically that the stormwater was congregating in the dugouts, rendering the dugouts unusable. I made a field visit, and that when not only the dugout situation, but the parking lot situation, that is a dirt parking lot that turns into a mud bowl every time it rains. So in evaluating it, it became evident that we were going to need to put some type of drainage, possibly some regrading, in order to take care of the stormwater project and to provide stormwater for the ultimate paving of the road, the parking lot. So my concern was that if we put the money in for laser grading of the infield, we could very likely undo it all when we regrade the field to handle the stormwater. So I elected at that point to put that project on hold until we had further evaluation as part of the ABM process. So that is why a number of those projects were placed on hold. I was very frank with both of them as to my reasoning. And so that is the full story on why those projects were put on hold. And you know, as I told you on Monday night, the goal is for ABM to have a priority list ready by August so that when we finalize the final budget, we will have specific projects in the final budget with the cost. And my assurance to you is that those projects will immediately start in October so that they get done.
So that's not exactly what I was asking for, but I appreciate that. Who made the evaluation on those buildings that they needed to be destroyed?
The initial evaluation was a park staff person, the deputy city manager, and the mayor. Then I went out and took a look at them myself, and with my background, I was not pleasantly, I was surprised.
Can we stop right here? The question was, who made the evaluation? I never made evaluation.
No, you just made a bid.
In November 17th of last year, I asked for a tour of parks facilities, not outside parks.
That's correct.
I went, Stacy went, and a staff member went.
So we never had, other than yourself, somebody go and do an evaluation to see if the arts and crafts building or the other building could be
I went out to the
Repair.
buildings with my background. I have an extensive background in building maintenance and buildings construction. It was very evident to me when I went to the Arts and Craft building that we had roof failure, we had foundation failure, that we had a air conditioning system that had been vandalized, and the overall condition of the building was not salvageable. Similarly, on the community building, I knew we had a mold issue. We also had some concern with regard to the roofing structure, and that was part of the reason that I elected to bring in ABM to do the actual final evaluation. The initial evaluation was done by me, but it was very apparent that we need a top-to-bottom review of all of our buildings, which ABM is, I believe, almost finished. I think they have a couple more places they're supposed to go this week, but they will be putting together the final report and a recommendation on which projects to pursue.
Okay, so here's my concern. We have to have everything set and finalized by, and turned in by what date? August 5th? So we don't have until someday in August to finalize this budget, So I guess my question is why are we on like this 911 crisis mode and we're not allowing them to, or rushing them to do an analysis? And when you rush individuals like that, we're opening ourselves up for error. I just don't see where this is going to be in by the time we have to decide on this budget. And I'm personally not comfortable saying, yeah, let's just set it at 7.85 where it's been just because we want to do some guesstimates. I would rather have it done, have the report done accurately, and get it in so we can have it ready and prepared for the next budget. Because right now, you're saying August, we got to have this finalized. I mean, our next meeting is July 27. So I don't see how this is going to be in before we do some finalizing on this budget.
Beginning of August, we have to have the trim notice, but the final budget is approved by you all during the 2 hearings in September.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. So I don't want to say, oh, yeah, well, we're going to raise it just in case. Does that make sense? I don't want to say, oh, yeah, well, we can't reduce this to, 7.25 because, we're going to raise it just in case. I just see us rushing through something and, we've hired a consultant. And if we're going to let him do it, we need to let him do it and do it right and not be like, okay, chop, chop, let's get it done.
Ms. Bradford, I would ask that you give it to the meeting on the 27th to be able to go through the line by line and show you what our long-term plans are for the Parks and Rec for the buildings. We have enough information to know how to put together the budget. The question is which projects have the highest priority at this point.
Well, aren't they going through other departments? That's my thing. I'm not talking just Park and Recs. We've got other departments that they're going through, correct? Like they're going through our building here. I mean, they're going through other departments, not just Parks and Rec, correct? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've been up here 6 years now, and I've never seen where we approve something and bam, 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 we're trying to throw something in a budget within a couple months. We usually take time and do it correctly and do our due diligence, and I just feel like we're like on a, hurry up, let's go, and I'm just trying to figure out what's like the 911 all of a sudden.
Well, in my response to the 911, until I actually visited the various sites, I did not have an appreciation for how bad some of these facilities were. And quite frankly, given the mold level at the community building, that was concerning because we were having people that were using it. The Campbell Park building, we had people that were using it, and it was in horrendous shape. So yeah, that to me is a crisis. And at this point, we want to move forward with getting our facility to a point where we can expand our programs. Because right now, we're very limited in terms of what buildings we have available. We had, for the basketball program, we had 180-some kids sign up, and we had a waiting list of over 50. And part of that because we don't have facilities. So, you know, the better we can do with having adequate facilities, the more programs that we can offer to our residents. And to me, it's important that we get the facilities fixed so that we can start offering these programs again.
And I understand that, and I do appreciate that, you know, but something was brought up last night or the night before about, you know, our building here, new AC units that ABM found, and, you know, 911, let's get these fixed. My question is, I believe in prior years, we did have budgeted AC maintenance. So if that's the case, I go back to saying, why aren't we contacting these companies that we had, you know, contracts with to do this maintenance and then hold them accountable if we are having problems with these units?
You're not going to get any disagreement from me, but
You know, but
the
now we're
amount
being
of-
rushed to buy new AC units. I mean, so there's a lot, like I'm saying, I just think we need to like,
What is the solution? Can we like get to that? What is the solution?
the solution is Anita just shuts up and just lets everybody drink the Kool-Aid.
No, what I'm trying to find out is the goal to lower the millage rate? I mean, basically, because that's why we collect all this information, to set budget and to either lower, keep the same, or raise the millage rate. So I'm asking if that's the big concern here. Not about the projects. The projects are going to carry on. They do. They're perpetual projects. And I understand how they affect the budget. I understand that, but what we're trying to get to is the point where we have to set the trim notice. So what is the solution? Do we come in here for 5-6 days and we do workshops? That's what I'm asking. We're talking about the problem. We're grinding on the problem without a solution. So I'm trying to get solution-based here and ask, what is the solution to get to where we need to go? Because this isn't it.
Well,
This is
what-
spinning in the mud right here.
Right, no, what I'm saying is, we're trying to rush, like,
Then let's
ABM's
set
come up
meetings
here
to
and
where, then we have to set meetings and assimilate a lot of information, go through it in our spare time, and set meetings so that we can sit here and do exactly what we're doing, if that's where we're trying to go.
No, that's not it. ABM is who, on quite a few departments, we're like, hey, we're on hold, we don't have finals, we're putting this aside, we're putting that aside, right? And we're telling them, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up and do this.
I'm
And if they're
asking what the
not
solution is.
going to be done in time and get it done completely,
So what is the
I'm just saying
solution?
we need to like slow down a little bit and let them do what
So
they
what
have
is
to
the
do and
solution?
put
Is it
part of
more
it over to the
meetings,
next
more
budget.
time? What is the, I'm asking what the solution is, then where do we need to go? What is it that, if there is a problem being discussed and someone has to have an idea, you must have an idea of what you think the solution is. Is it to put off the ABF study? Is it to, how do you get that more time? You have to talk about how you capture that time, if that's what the problem is. How do you capture that time then?
So what I'm saying is, generally, when we have a consultant come in, and a consultant does their evaluation, we're not sitting here, chop, chop, I need this next week. I need this in a month. I need this in 2 months. We allow them to go through and do their thorough, complete presentation. They come before us, they tell us what they find, and we say, okay, it's going to be put on this budget. And it could be right now, if they're not going to be done and we're forcing them to hurry up and get done, it may be like, okay, this has to go on the, instead of 22, 23, 23, 24 budget.
But if we do that, you're basing your budget on your revenue with a good portion is it of your millage rate. And the $3 million that were put in there were put as a placeholder to start the projects with whatever we decide and what ABM comes up with. If you choose not to budget those $3 million, they either sit in undesignated reserves or we lower the millage rate to not do that. And then next year, when you want to budget those projects, you can't raise the millage rate enough to pull in that extra money. So you either put a placeholder in, and they should definitely take their time. I agree with you to make sure that it's a good thing. But in planning a budget, it's like if I say, okay, I'm going to get my roof evaluated and it's going to cost me 10 grand, I got to budget the $10,000, whether I spend it now or whether I spend it when I get 5 estimates in 6 months. But the money is at least there when I pick what I'm going to do with it. So we have to decide what.
I agree.
Even if we don't have a specific project, just looking at the list on page 277, if you want to look at your capital outlay budget detail for the next meeting, or for questions, when you look at the 3.125 million we budgeted for capital projects in parks, I can tell you right now, we got 2 million or 1.5 million we haven't spent. And that's just an overview looking here. So what we have to do is, for the ABM study, is put money aside, and then at the true up, at the end of the budget year, we will see how much more we have for some of these projects that didn't get done, and then we can put more money to that, or we can put it in the reserves. But if we don't set a millage rate with some placeholder, their suggestion was 3 million. If you want to go lower or higher, that's fine. You're not spending it, you're just holding it. I mean, that's, to me, the solution. I don't know.
What he said was, when he came up there, he was actually very happy that we put 3 million aside in parks, okay?
But he also said
What I'm saying is, we're saying, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, give me this, give me all your answers by August so we can get it in. Okay, I don't have a problem putting a placeholder on it, but he also stated that he's not even going to start these until probably 23, 24.
I think that where that comes from is me asking last night how quickly they could get it done. That's where that narrative came from, that conversation
Well, no,
came from.
everybody's
The
getting
original
on that.
cost was, he said it would be upwards of 10 million for all of the projects.
That's right.
Correct.
But
So
if I
Madam Mayor,
if I
if I can
remember right,
Let Commissioner King wanted to say something. Yes.
If I remember right, when we talked about this and voted to bring ABM in, they had a plan. And that plan was that they were going to do their assessments and they were going to get the information back to us by a certain date. That date has not changed. They are doing what we asked them to do, and they will be done when they said they're going to be done. We're not asking them to hurry up. We're not trying to make them speed up and do anything any different or faster than they were supposed to get it done. They're on the track that they said they would get it done on. So this is all, again, we're talking about stuff that I don't really think we need to talk about. They said they would get it done by the date that Mr. Peters gave us, and we voted to do that. Now we're set with, this is what our millage rate can be. Our budget that is being suggested to us tonight is being based on a 7.25 millage rate. We have an opportunity to set it at that or set it at something higher. That's what we're here about. And ABM is going to get their stuff done, and they're going to bring it back to Mr. Peters, and that's going to be presented to us when it's time. We're talking about stuff that we don't even need to be talking about right now. We need to stay on track with what we're here to do. Let's just get done what we have to do. Then we can take our books home and we can start studying, and we'll be back at the next meeting to discuss all of this stuff that you want to talk about tonight. And that's all I have to say.
Madam Mayor, if I
Right
could
now.
just make a couple observations.
One second, Mr. City Manager, acting. Before we leave tonight, we have to get a time frame as to what we want to do on the 27th. What kind of a time frame? What time of day you want to start? Mr. Peters, before we go any further, what is your estimation? What time do we need to start on the 27th, realistically, to do the line item budget? As long as we're on this topic, can we have any comments from commissions? When can you be here on that Monday? A week from Monday.
I personally would like to be here early and not leave midnight.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I may, I think a lot is also going to depend on us. We can get here at 12 and still leave here at midnight.
That's right.
I think it's going to depend on us taking your books, studying your books, have conversation with our city manager where you need to have conversation, and then on the 27th, if we need to bring something up, we've come prepared. But if we're going to just choose a time to be here, and we're going to come here on Monday at 12 noon and start item by item by item by item, we will be here till midnight. So I don't know that necessarily starting early, it's going to make a difference. I think the difference is going to be on how we address and going through the budget line by item, and any questions and concerns, like our manager said, if you have any questions and concerns, that you can reach out to him so that he can have some answers, and we don't have to spend here all night Monday getting those answers.
How about 12 to 5 on Monday?
And I just have to say this, Commissioner, with all due respect, it's not about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's about being realistic. Let's take the time to go through it like we want to. And guess what? Any questions or concerns, that's why we have a manager. And if we disagree with what the manager is saying, then Monday we are here and we can have that conversation among us. But to come line by line on Monday, it started at 8 o'clock in the morning. What the heck?
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes,
can
sir.
suggest something, if you all could start the process of reviewing the line by line, get with me and my staff. By Monday, the coming Monday, I think I would be better able to answer the question as to what kind of time frame we are talking about. You know, for instance, if I hear that literally we need to go line by line, I'm going to say we need to start at 9 o'clock or noon. However, if I hear that most of the comments are pretty uniform and it's something that we can handle in 4 hours, I will let you know that on Monday. But for me to divine what the questions are going to be at this point, I would have to err on the side of caution and say we need to start at noon to ensure we have enough time. But I think it would be more prudent for us to start the review process, talk to me, tell me what your concerns are, and then by the coming Monday, I think I can give you a more accurate time frame.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me see who's on the board. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, Mr. Peter, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, my experience has been that every time a topic comes up, something else comes up that has not been answered or that we haven't discussed or that we just find out. And I think that's the problem we're having. And it's everybody up here. It's not just one person. Everybody has taken their time to use up the time to ask questions and try to understand what we want to do here. So coming in the evening, it's not going to work. And I really don't want to stay here till 12 o'clock midnight. So if we can come in early, I would appreciate that, because we can also dedicate more time into questions and answers. And honestly, we all do have the right to ask the questions that we don't understand without, feeling like, we don't want to rush or we don't want to take up everybody else's time. Because, sometimes I don't understand something and I want to ask the questions, and I want to be respected when I ask the questions and receive an answer. So I think early would be perfect.
Noon, okay? Yes, you? Okay, what, if you can't? Noon?
Yeah, and just to clarify, when I say line item, we're going line item book. We're not going line item by line item, just like you said earlier, Mayor. We go through the book, we write our notes, you say any questions on that, and we go through it, and everybody gets a chance to ask their questions. It's not going through line item by line item and pulling toilet paper out.
Okay, noon? Noon on Monday, the 27th? Sir, was that work? There's no other meetings in the chambers that day? Joyce, get that calendar out. I'll wait for the clerk, and the fingers are moving rapidly. We're clear? Perfect. Noon on Monday, the 27th. And seeing as no one is on the board, no more comments or questions, we shall adjourn. Good? Thank you, everyone. Joyce?